everybody, this is Dr. Eileen here delivering my virtual adjustment on how to become least vulnerable people. And yes, of course, I am optimistic and excited because I feel like literally our community is waking up from the COVID-19 bad dream. Over the last few weeks, more folks are coming in, getting their chiropractic care. People are definitely getting back on their exercise groove, and a recurring theme that I hear is the realization from folks that they understand that being less mobile, less active, and less connected has definitely had a negative effect on them physically as well as mentally. And the big wake up is how happy everybody is being back, getting their chiropractic care, doing their exercises, and the consistent acknowledgement from folks has been how important they understand that being mobile, active, and connected really helps them stay healthy, stronger, and less vulnerable. So as I've been talking about from the beginning of my virtual adjustments, my motivation in doing these is to help educate our community on what makes people most vulnerable, and most importantly, educate people on choices you can make for yourself, your family, people you care about, on how to become least vulnerable people. So I am always appreciative for people who are showing up and to these virtual adjustments, and also really appreciative for people who are sharing the information. And I ask you and encourage you to share it, because in my mind, the healthier, stronger, and less vulnerable we are as individuals, as families, as community, the better off we're all going to be, whether it's a COVID-19 chaos situation like now or some other thing down the road. I'm also excited because my good friend and professional co-collaborator, Jude Christian, who's a certified nurse practitioner, she's going to be back this week on the adjustment, the virtual adjustment today as a guest. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be talking about some really great things. And my virtual adjustment today is called Keeping Your Brain Healthy as You Age. And the virtual adjustment post that we did, which is down below, is called Focus on Brain and Nerve Health. And on that post, there's a link to a really good article. It's called Epidemic of Neurological Disorders. So I really encourage people to check that out. So nervous system disorders such as Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, autism, dementia, traumatic brain injury are just a few of the many conditions that are affecting people of all ages in our society. And so it's important for people to understand that by the year 2050, right, the percentage of people living to 100 and more is going to be increased 800%. And unfortunately, the prevalence of those people living with those kind of neurological disorders is also going to significantly increase. So this is really important stuff. And I'm going to talk a few numbers here. According to the Alzheimer's Association, currently there's 5.8 million people in the United States that are living with Alzheimer's disease, and it is projected to increase to 13.8 million people by the year 2050. The NIH projects that people living with Parkinson's with dementia is going to triple by the year 2060, and the CDC, which has been tracking autism rates since the year 2000, in 2000 the prevalence of autism in children was 1 in 150 children. Today it's 1 in 54. So these numbers are staggering, and they're only going to become more staggering. So the neurological conditions like Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, autism, they're complicated. But more and more research is linking these neurological disorders to exposure to environmental toxins. And environmental toxins is everything from toxins in our food, air, water, soil, as well as common medications that people take. And there's a renowned researcher from UCLA, his name is Dr. Dale Bredesen, sorry, mispronounced that. But anyway, he published a book called The End of Alzheimer's. And one of the things that he talks about in his research is the single most contributing factor in relationship to Alzheimer's disease is something called insulin resistance, which is a result of diets that are heavy in carbohydrates, particularly refined carbohydrates. That leads to conditions called prediabetes as well as diabetes. The other three neurotoxic factors that he says are really critically contributing to Alzheimer's disease is, the first is inflammation, systemic inflammation in the body. And this relates to unhealthy digestive system. And unhealthy digestive systems happens as a result of chronic infections. It happens as a result of consuming bad fats like trans fats, refined carbohydrates, and also chemicals like a chemical called glyphosate. And the second neurotoxic factor that he talked about is poor nutrient support, everything from minerals in the diet to low vitamin D, to not consuming enough good fats. And the third factor is exposure to environmental toxins, things like aluminum, lead, a lot of different heavy metal chemicals that are in lots of different things, as well as chemicals that are in plastics, chemicals that are in clothing, and chemicals that are in food, and not just chemicals related to herbicides and pesticides, which is a big deal, but chemicals that are actually packaged into food, chemicals called aspartate, glutamate. And another really important neurotoxic factor that he talks about is usage of medications, common medications, prescription as well as over-the-counter, everything from anti-inflammatory medications to antibiotic medications, and another classification of drugs that are called anticholinergics. So the reality is these things are contributing to neurodegenerative neurological disorders and diseases. So what do we do about it, right? It's a layered and it's a complicated situation, but I'm all about simplicity. So one of the things that I talk to people about is reducing inflammation in the body is really important, and a simple way is starting to reduce the crappy carbohydrates in the diet. Another thing is getting a healthier digestive system is really important. And then the third thing is detoxifying the body from environmental toxins as well as medications. So I feel really fortunate that I've got a great working relationship with my friend and professional co-collaborator, Jude Christian. Last week, she was a guest, came on, and we talked about hydration, but I introduced Jude last week. So this week, I'm gonna let her tell you all about her area of expertise and the things that she does in helping people. So,
thank you, and thanks for having me back.
Yes.
So I am a family nurse practitioner. I've got 15 years of experience both in intensive care work as well as out in doing primary care. As a nurse, I was in the intensive care unit, I was in general med surgical, I was doing hospice care. I really kind of, covered the gamut. And about just over 10 years ago, I started exploring becoming a clinical herbalist and understanding the benefits of other things, so that we can really kind of, when I say other things, I mean herbs, but also supplements. And then that led me down the path of healthy eating, and it was really how to move away from medication being the solution to everything. So that is where I am today with my practice, which is integrative primary care, and it basically tries to look at people as a whole person rather than like focusing in on one individual part of a body, because I feel like they're all so interconnected. It's the way forward as far as being healthy.
Yes, and she is amazing. And what I feel really fortunate about is in our working relationship together is Jude has a really great understanding about what I do as a chiropractor in helping the spine and nervous system be healthy. And what's also been very beneficial and helpful for me is I have people that come in that have a lot of systemic imbalances and are looking for alternative options, and people who are on lots of medications. So it's been really great having the working relationship in that we refer back and forth to one another. But again, I'm all about simplifying with people. So in keeping your brain healthy as you age, in simplifying it, if you were to sort of boil it down to some of the building blocks for people on what they can focus on things that they can do, how would you break that down, Jude?
Okay. So the very first thing we were talking about this earlier was proactive. Be proactive. Very often what I'm seeing is people coming in wanting to put out the fire of a problem that they already have, when we could be actually talking about what to do so that you never actually develop those problems. That's kind of that would be, you know, a fabulous thing to do, would be to help people do these things before we reach the point where they have fires that need to be put out, okay? And the building blocks I'm going to talk about are the same whether you are already dealing with problems or you're trying to prevent problems. So Dr. Bredeson's book is, you know, and his research absolutely has a huge impact on how I look at a person, because he looks at the whole person. He's realizing there's not one problem that causes neurodegenerative disorders. There's more to it than that. It is an entire approach. So, you know, you mentioned insulin resistance and inflammation and the quality of digestion and micronutrients, and we bring that all round to quality of your diet. So literally just getting started by removing those crappy carbohydrates, by definition then bringing in more fruits and vegetables, you will start to increase those micronutrients that your body needs. You will start to be getting rid of those things that actually directly cause inflammation in the gut. So you're doing a number of things simply by making some pretty basic adjustments in your diet. Okay. The next part you're looking at, as far as detox pathways, and you know, you want to look at sort of the elimination pathways, your digestion, your liver and kidney function, the way you sweat. It's really important. But the key is, you know, back to what we talked about last week, that building block of hydration. All three of those things are majorly impacted by whether you're hydrated or not. When you're dehydrated, when you don't have enough water on a daily basis, then your body can't do those things. So we can't even enter into the conversation of detox pathways if we're not making sure that you're adequately hydrated. So far we've got changing your diet somewhat. There's going to be, you know,
get rid of the crappy carbohydrates.
Get rid of the crappy carbohydrates, and then improving your hydration. So these are things you can be doing before you even come in and see us and get you started on this road. The next one is, he talks about preserving the neural synapses that you have, and also trying to take, you know, and take care of those, and then, you know, where you can.
Neural synapses, let me just clarify that, is one nerve talking to another nerve, okay? Gotta have those.
Thank you. Super important in the communication throughout your body. One of the major ways we do that is through sleep. There's an entire lymph system dedicated just to your brain called the glymph system that can only work while you're asleep. So if you're not getting enough sleep, or the quality of your sleep is poor, and you can tell that by whether you feel rested when you wake up in the morning. It's a really key question. Not how many hours do you sleep, although it's important. How do you feel when you wake up?
Restorative sleep, right?
If you're not feeling rested, you're not getting the quality or the amount of sleep that you need. And that's a major part of taking care of the brain that you have, as well as working to, you know, improve the tissue function as well. So good diet, hydration, sleep, and then within the diet, the micronutrients, you know, within hydration, talking about exercise. These are basic building blocks that everyone's heard, but now you kind of see why we talk about them and how they're connected to each other. And that's the most important thing, is understanding that connection. Because once you know, you can't unknow, right. And then you can start moving forward.
And you know, you made a really key point in the fact of the proactive concept, and the fact that these are things that people can do themselves. And when you have guidance from people like us, it helps you understand how to get on that path and how to follow that path. So, you know, another really important part of us working together is, as I said, Jude really understands how important having a healthy spine and nervous system. So from a chiropractic standpoint, when we're talking about brain health and keeping your brain healthy as you age, a lot of people don't think about that in terms of the chiropractic piece, because they're thinking, oh, they go to the chiropractor, you got pain. Well, what happens is when you have imbalanced alignment in your segments of your spine, something we call vertebral subluxations, your spine gets more compressed, it doesn't move as well. And when that happens, your cerebral spinal fluid, which is basically fluid that is sort of outside your spinal cord and your brain, and the cerebral spinal fluid has a lot of important jobs. One of it is to bring nutrients to your brain and your spinal column and your nervous system, and also to take away waste, right? So when your spine's all jammed up and your cerebral spinal fluid a lot of times doesn't flow really well. Chiropractic adjustments rebalance the spine, get the spine moving better. That improves cerebrospinal fluid flow. So that's one thing that chiropractic adjustments do for healthy brain. And the other thing that it does is that when you get chiropractic adjustments, it stimulates a part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is the governor of the brain. It's the CEO of the brain. And that's so why, like, us helping children with chiropractic adjustments is so important, because the more you can activate the nervous system to stimulate the prefrontal cortex, the better the brain develops, okay? So a healthy brain. And then the third thing is when people get chiropractic adjustments, it stimulates a neurochemical called endorphins. And endorphins are the happy brain neurochemicals, but also they modulate pain. So the more that you can get the endorphins of the brain working, it makes people healthier and happier in their brain. And as I always say, where your brain goes, your body follows. So having, and then the other thing, exercise, right? So when people exercise, not only do they sweat, which is part of the detox pathway, important, but also the brain produces endorphins, and those are the good brain chemicals that help you feel happier and healthier. So chiropractic care is all about getting your nervous system, nutrition system, endurance, strength, and structure working better, moving better. This results in healthier, stronger, and less vulnerable people. So we believe that everybody deserves to be healthy from the time they're born to their last phase of life. And our mission, what we do, and Jude has a very similar mission, is that our goal is to transform health and longevity consciousness in our community and beyond. So making chiropractic care and things that Jude does as well as part of a healthy lifestyle at any age will improve neurology, nutrition, endurance, strength, and structure, help you be healthier, stronger, less vulnerable, and also help us thrive, not just survive. Because when we're talking about our brain, if we're going to be living a whole lot longer, we want our brain to be with us. So healthy brain as we age is really important, and the choices that we make, because 70% of our longevity is based on lifestyle choices. Choices we make now can really determine the quality of that longevity.
Big time.
So on the virtual adjustment post also, we have a link to Jude's website, and I encourage people to check that out because she's got a ton of information. I think she's also going to put some information about these building blocks in terms of healthy brain. Last week we talked about hydration. And so we're going to be getting back together more because we have lots of good things to say. And I want people to tune in next week. I'm going to be changing my virtual adjustments up a little bit in honor of Independence Day, and it's going to be called Lifetime of Independence. So we're going to be shifting the emphasis a little bit. So tune in to Dr. Eileen's Virtual Adjustments Wednesday at noon, Orange Chiropractic and Family Facebook. And have a great day. Healthy brain as we age. All right, see you next time. Bye.